Hey everyone! Today we are diving into something truly amazing, the most fundamental language in the entire universe. I'm talking about the language of life itself. We're looking at nucleic acids. These are the incredible master molecules, the software that programs every single living thing, from the smallest virus all the way up to, well, us. So what exactly is this code? Right? What is this code? What's the secret script that tells an organism, hey, you're going to have wings, or you're going to have roots, or you get fingers? That is the huge question we're going to tackle today as we start to pull back the curtain on the blueprint of existence itself. Well, this whole story is written using two main types of molecules. You've definitely heard of them: deoxyribonucleic acid, that's DNA of course, and ribonucleic acid, or RNA. Just imagine them as these super long chains, or polymers, that are absolutely jam-packed with information, and you find them in every single living thing on this planet, no exceptions. So let's get a bit more specific. What is a nucleic acid? Well, at its core, it's a polymer, and that's just a fancy word for a really long chain made of these repeating units called nucleotides. But the story of how we even found them is pretty wild. There was this Swiss physician, Friedrich Miescher, and he was studying, get this, pus from discarded surgical bandages. Yep. And from the white blood cells in there, he isolated this new substance. He saw it was acidic and it came from the cell's nucleus, so he called it nuclein. And that name, as you can probably guess, eventually became nucleic acid. Kind of gross, but super important. Okay, so if DNA and RNA are the giant instruction manuals for life, then what are the nucleotides? Well, they're the individual letters in that manual. They're the fundamental alphabet. Or, if you like, think of them as the Lego bricks you use to build these massive, information-rich structures. And here we have a picture of one of those letters, a single nucleotide. Now, I know it might look a little complicated at first, but don't worry. Every single one of these, no matter what, is built from just three key parts. So let's break down what those parts are, one by one. All right, so here are the three components. First up, you have a phosphate group. This is what gives the whole molecule its acidic property. Then, in the middle, we've got a 5-carbon sugar. That's kind of like the backbone of the nucleotide. And finally, and this is the really important bit, there's a nitrogenous base. This is what carries the genetic information. It's the part that actually acts as the unique letter in our alphabet. And what's crazy is that this simple 3-part structure is universal. It's the same for a bacterium as it is for a blue whale. But here's a cool twist. These little nucleotide molecules, they don't just sit around waiting to be built into DNA. They have some incredibly important day jobs all on their own. Yeah, take a look at ATP. That's adenosine triphosphate. This is basically a single nucleotide that acts as the universal energy currency for all life on Earth. Seriously. You can think of it like the cell's rechargeable battery. Anytime your body needs to do, well, anything, contract a muscle, think a thought, build a new protein, it spends a little bit of ATP to get the energy for the job. It's fundamental. And it's not just ATP. Here's another key player, NAD. This one's a dinucleotide, which just means it's made of two nucleotides stuck together. What does it do? It's a crucial coenzyme. Think of it like a little energy taxi, shuttling electrons back and forth during all sorts of metabolic reactions, especially cellular respiration. It's a huge part of the process that turns the food you eat into the energy your body can actually use. Okay. So we've got our building blocks, our little Lego bricks. Now for the fun part. Let's see how they all link together to build probably the most famous molecule in all of biology, the DNA double helix. You know the one, that iconic twisted ladder that holds all the secrets of life. So how do you stick these bricks together? The key is a special kind of glue called a phosphodiester bond. I know, it sounds super complicated, but it's really just a strong chemical bond that connects the sugar of one nucleotide to the phosphate of the next one. And as you repeat this link over and over and over, you build this really stable sugar-phosphate backbone. This backbone forms the two long sides of our DNA ladder. And when you put it all together, boom, you get this, the double helix. This is the structure that Watson and Crick famously figured out back in 1953. And this elegant, twisted shape, it's not just for looks. It's an incredibly efficient and super stable way to pack a massive amount of genetic information into a tiny space. So how does this thing actually work? Well, first you've got two long strands, and they're what we call anti-parallel, which just means they run in opposite directions, kind of like lanes on a highway. Now, these two strands are held together by bonds between the bases, the rungs of our ladder. And here's the magic trick. The bases follow a very strict pairing rule. Adenine, or A, always pairs up with thymine, T, and guanine, G, always pairs up with cytosine, C, always. This rule, complementary base pairing, is the secret sauce. It's what allows DNA to be copied perfectly every single time a cell divides. This is the very foundation of heredity. All right, so we've got this incredible, beautiful structure. But so what? How does it actually do anything? How does a molecular code turn into, a living, breathing organism with all its complex traits? The answer is all about how this blueprint is read and actually put to use.
The information in our DNA is organized into these sections called genes. A great way to think about it is that your entire DNA is like a giant cookbook, and each gene, that's a single recipe. And what's it a recipe for? Well, it's the instructions to make a specific protein or enzyme. And it's those proteins that go on to build and run the cell, ultimately deciding things like your eye color or your hair color.
So how do you go from the recipe to the finished cake? It happens in two main steps. Step 1 is called transcription. This is where the cell makes a copy of the DNA recipe. But it's not a permanent copy. It's a temporary message molecule called RNA. Then comes step 2, translation. That RNA message is carried over to the cell's protein factory, a little machine called the ribosome. The ribosome reads the message and uses it to build the final protein, one piece at a time.
And that brings us right to our second nucleic acid, RNA. If DNA is the master blueprint locked away safely in the architect's office, the nucleus, then RNA is the hardworking construction crew out on the job site. They're the messengers, the translators, and the factory workers who take those plans and actually build the whole thing.
And they are a little different, as you can see here. First, RNA uses a slightly different sugar, called ribose. It's also usually single-stranded, not a double helix like DNA, which makes it way more flexible for doing different jobs. And here's a really critical difference. It swaps out one of the bases. Where DNA has thymine, or T, RNA has a base called uracil, or U. So in the RNA world, the pairing rule is A with U, not A with T. And just like any good construction crew, RNA has specialists. It's not a one-trick pony. Each one has a unique shape for its unique job. For instance, you've got transfer RNA, or tRNA. You can think of it like a little molecular taxi that brings the right building blocks, the amino acids, to the protein assembly line. And then there's ribosomal RNA, or rRNA. This stuff is the factory machinery itself. It's the core component that makes up the ribosome. And check this out, this chart really shows you what the cell prioritizes. A whopping 80% of all the RNA in a cell is ribosomal RNA. That is staggering. It tells you just how much of a cell's energy and resources are poured into one single task, building proteins. The factory machinery itself makes up almost the entire workforce. The actual messages, the messenger RNA that we talked about, they only make up a teeny tiny fraction at any one time. So there you have it, from a simple little 3-part nucleotide all the way up to the unbelievably complex machinery of life. It's all written by nucleic acids. They are the blueprint, the messenger, and a factory all rolled into one. And as we get better and better at reading, and now even editing this fundamental code, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it?